Want to go far in business and in life? You can't do it alone. The secret is expanding your network of personal relationships, building friendships, connecting on an intimate level, away from the office, over a coffee or cocktail. Welcome to All In with Nate Payo, the show that asks what happens when you go all in and leverage the power of your network of personal relationships.
Welcome to the All In podcast with Nate Payo. I am your host, Nate Payo. This is my first YouTube live stream. Thought I'd give it a shot, see how things go. This is a show, for those of you first listening, this is a show that's really about what happens when you step out of your comfort zone. What happens when you push your limits? What happens if you get comfortable with being uncomfortable and really go all in on trying to live your best life possible, living the best version of you. This started off a few years ago when I started really getting more involved with my industry, which is real estate development, and started networking a bunch more. And over the course of meeting a bunch of people, I really found my passion for helping others. And I found a lot more fulfillment when I was able to connect people with other connections. And over the course of the last few years, I've grown my network within my industry. But I thought to myself, this year, what would happen if you put all of your efforts into making as many deep personal connections as you can, or really see where you go? What kind of starts behind this idea behind it is, how often do we hear this statement that says we're going to overestimate what we can accomplish in a year, but underestimate what we can do in 5 years? And I first heard this statement, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 years ago. I was kind of getting started with my career, and I was starting to see some initial success. I really wanted to go places. And I started thinking about the things I wanted to do, the accomplishments I wanted to make. And I kind of mapped out this like 5-year plan. And my first year was really, really ambitious, and it really didn't go as planned. I was frustrated through the process, and I wasn't making all the moves I thought I wanted to make. Things weren't happening quick enough. And I kind of like lost sight of this focus, lost sight of this effort. And I just kind of continued to do my career without this focus on this like 5-year plan. Now, fast forward to today, I start looking back on that plan. And yes, I wasn't making the progress I wanted to make in 5 years. But those goals and those ideas where I wanted to accomplish in 5 years, like I've completely blown those by. Like they've been beat, they've been matched. It's not even been a question that I've exceeded those, which is weird because I wouldn't have thought where I'm at today was even possible, even comprehensible. So that led me to this idea of like, well, if you know what you're going to do is going to be underestimated in 5 years, what if you really, really, really set some ambitious goals, some ambitious visions, some ambitious strategies of just kind of like, hey, let's just do more. Let's do a lot. Let's just do as much as we can and really push ourselves out of our comfort zone, knowing that in 5 years, we're going to exceed anything we thought possible. So that's brought me to this All In podcast. That's brought me to the topic I want to talk to you guys today about, which is goals and motivation. Because for me, goals and motivation has also changed in the last, really recently for me. I probably redefined how I want to do goal setting and how I define motivation probably in the last year, but it's definitely changed a lot since 10, 15 years ago when I first came up with this idea. So going to back to goal setting. Typically what we've heard with goal setting is that you want to have something that's quantifiable. You want to have something that's actionable. There needs to be a timetable, and it needs to have this like, you need to have like a series of smaller goals and big ambitious goals. And for me, I'm going to say right now, goal setting in that sense for a long term is nonsense, because what you're going to do is you don't know where you're going to be in 5 years. You don't know the things that are going to come up in your life. You don't know the things you're going to want to go after. So if you set goals such as like, I want to make $1 million, or I want to live in a 10,000 square foot house, or I want to drive Ferraris, those things are like things or objectives, but they're not really something that you're going to achieve and feel like you have purpose, you have drive, you have a cause behind setting those goals or achieving those goals. Because once you get them, you've accomplished something. You've checked the box, and now there's the next thing. There's the next thing. There's the next thing. So when you just look for objectives that are check the box, yes or no, pass, fail, there's this lack of fulfillment. There's this next step. And also you're setting yourself up to, if you don't achieve those, a bit of discouragement, because like, oh, I didn't get where I wanted to get. So I'm going to tell you to scrap that yes. There's nothing wrong with wanting those things, wanting $1 million, wanting big house or fancy cars. But think of it this way. Why is it that you want that car? Why is it that you want that thing? Is it the thing you want because you want to have it, to be admired, to be looked at, to be like, hey, that person really is somebody that is something? Or are you doing it because it's the lifestyle around it that you want? Like, take, for example, if you're into Ferraris and you just want to get a nice Ferrari, and you go and you get one and you got one, you go, okay, I accomplished that. But then what? What's next? But the people that are really, really into Ferraris, it's not just that they want a Ferrari, but they are so into the lifestyle of being a Ferrari owner and the community that goes around it. They like to go to Ferrari shows. They like to talk to Ferrari owners. They like to talk to Ferrari racers. They like to go to auctions. They like to collect cars and talk to other people that collected cars. So there's more to it than just this thing, this object that they've accomplished. There's this lifestyle, this community around it. So when you think about your goals should revolve around a vision of how you want your life to be. So when you're setting these goals, instead of thinking like, I want things, I want to check these boxes, imagine how you want to be living your life in 5 years. How do you want to be living your life in 10 years? And when you have that vision identified of like, I have, I imagine myself doing these things. I imagine these people in my lives. I imagine I'm interacting with these other people. I imagine going to work at this place with all these people. And how does that look? And once you've identified how that looks and that cause behind it that you want to chase after, then you start thinking about, how can I put myself in a position to accomplish those tasks? That's where the goals maybe become important, because they're task oriented. They're like a to-do list, a checklist. So when you start doing this, you're like I said, it's a vision. So think of it like a dream becomes a vision. And you've heard this thing where you're saying with a dream without goals is just like a dream, or something to that effect. So the goals become a to-do list. And for me, you really don't want to set too many goals that are longer than 3 to 6 months out and in front of you, because things change, things pivot. So these goals just become, things that maybe you accomplish too soon, and then they're too easy, or they're just off to the wayside, or you pivot and you go in a different direction that you didn't think it. So your goals kind of fall apart. So instead of thinking about goals, I like to think about putting yourself in position for positive outcomes more likely to occur. So when you start thinking about, what does that mean to you? Like if you wanted to go to college and you wanted to get a degree, that could be a way to do it. So think about this. How would you put yourself in a position more likely to get to college, more likely to succeed in getting it? Well, depending on where you're at in life, if you're just sitting at home, that's probably not going to be the place you want to do. So you might start looking at getting online, talking to the school recruiters, start talking to guidance counselors, start talking to people that are going to give you advice and shape and create this path and kind of push you in the direction that you need to go. Same thing with like going to the gym, even if you don't know what you want to do or how to get in shape, but if you start going places where people are working out, they're doing fitness, they're doing stuff like that, you're going to start meeting people in this space that are similar to you, that have the same like starting points, the same goals and same ambitions. So you start connecting, you start surrounding yourself with people that put you on the same path to get fit. Anything that you do can be done that way, whether you know anything about it or not know anything about it. You just start thinking like, hey, I want to get to this place of my life. These are the steps that need to take me there. I don't know anything about these steps, but I know I can go on the internet, I can research it, and I can look up places to find where people that might be on the same path as me hang out. And then when you find that out, then you start going and hanging out in those places, and you're bound if you continuously do it, you're bound to start meeting people that are going to make a difference in your life. They're going to start connecting you to the right people. They're going to start moving you down this path towards where you want to go. So that's where, if I was going to circle back and talk about what this show is about, or what my experience, what my plan is for the next 5 years, I'll just say I don't have a plan. The podcast is a tool, a part of this plan, which is to just see where things go. I know if I throw a lot out there that I'm bound to find experiences. I'm going to meet people. I'm going to be exposed to ideas that I didn't otherwise have access to. I know that. And I know that that's going to kind of be very broad and very, very free willy. And that's not probably where you hear people saying, hey, set goals that have no objective in mind, no decision in mind. There's not any clarity to them. It's just kind of like, I'm just going to go out there and I'm bound to meet some people that are going to push me in a direction where I'm going to go. And my course will kind of set itself in a way where I say, okay, I'm seeing myself going down this path. I'm going to start getting more detailed in this thing, and I'm going to start meeting people that are going to connect me to other people. So that might sound a little bit of wishy-washy, but that's why it's an experiment. So I thought to myself, why not document this process over the course of a year and just show people like, hey, what happens when you do go all in? What happens when you try to meet as many personal connections as you can? I'm not talking collecting business cards or getting as many followers and connections as I can on LinkedIn or Instagram or anything like that, but making real connections where the intent is to help them make their lives better, either introducing them to more people, helping them with their business, helping them do other things. So I'm setting an example, what I think that shows that you can start with zero, you can start with nothing, you can start with limited resources and do this. And knowing that if you just continuously show up and do things, progress will happen. When you have progress, you get better at something. As you get better at something, then you're going to see improvement. So this course that I'm going to be on is for everybody to show and see like, hey, you can do it too. I'm not anybody special. Anybody that's been really good at something had to start somewhere, and they all had their first step. So for me, that's where I'm at. That's what this show is about. And that's my kind of take on goals. Now, I also have another take on motivation, because back in the same time I was setting some goals for myself 10, 15 years ago, I was also really into motivation. I'd listen to all the Zig Ziglars or the Robert Kiyosaki books, all those things. I was super like, I want to get motivated. Motivation's going to get me to do it. But how often would motivation just kind of fail you? There's a saying that says, motivation doesn't last. That's why, or neither does bathing. But that's why we recommend doing both every day. But there's so many times when we're motivated and things don't go as planned, and we're like, how did that happen where I wasn't motivated and it just like the wheels fell off and today was a disaster? Or days where you don't really feel motivated, you don't really feel like getting up, and you don't really feel like doing the things that need to be done. So you just blow it off and you're like, how can I get motivated? And in reality, motivation is fleeting. Motivation comes and goes. It can be all over the place, and we can't rely on it. So when I first heard Jocko Willink talk about discipline equals freedom, it sounds like, oh yeah, this guy's a Navy SEAL guy. He's a guy that's going to tell you like, you just got to set your alarm clock and you got to, run 1,000,000 miles, do a bunch of pull-ups and quit being a wimp. But he said it in a way that made sense to me, which is, he says, motivation is going to fail you. Discipline is what's going to hold you and push you through that. Discipline is when you do the things that need to be done, even when you don't want to do them. And before I heard this, I'd wake up in the morning and be like, I don't feel like going to the gym today. I'll go tomorrow. Or I'd go the next day or whatever. And next thing I know, I hadn't gone for 3 months. And that would happen with a lot of things. And I heard his video where he talks about, what do you do when you don't feel like going to the gym? He says, I get up and I go anyways. Even if I'm just going to go there and go through the motions, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get up. I'm going to go through the motions. If I don't want to work on a project, I'm going to hammer on a project. If I don't feel like doing anything, I'm going to do it. And that changed my mindset. And so now whenever I think about something, even if I don't feel like doing it, I say, I'm going to do it anyways. I'm going to go through the motions. I'm going to just get it done. And chances are, and he says, chances are that's weakness talking you out of doing what you need to do. And you're going to go do the things that you didn't feel like doing, and things are going to go good. They're going to go better than you expected. And really, to me, that's always happened. That's always been the case. There's been a lot of times where I didn't feel like doing something, banged it out, and I go, wow, I did a lot better on that. I was a lot more in the zone than I thought I was going to be. I don't always need to wait for motivation to happen. If I choose discipline, if I choose getting up and going every single day and do the things that need to be done, even when I don't feel like doing them, I'm going to make progression. I'm going to make progress. We're trying to move forward as much as we can every day. Something I like to say is, if you just show up and give it your best every single day, you're going to get better. You're going to move the needle. And sometimes your best that you have that day is just to show up. And I'm not saying like, hey, we're all lazy. A lot of times we're not doing good things. We're not pushing the needle, or we don't feel like doing it, or we don't have great days. I'm saying most days you're in this not so good place. Not like in a bad place, but you're in like, you're not super motivated, you're not super gung-ho. But those are the days that are more important, because those are the days you're going to bang it out. Those are the days you're going to grow the most. So those are days that are going to be important. And when you can show up on those days, it makes the good days that much better. So that's a bit about my take on goals and motivation, and some brief history on what this podcast is about. If this is the first time hearing that, typically I do guests. I'd like to bring guests on the show. It is a show that's primarily focused on networking and taking interesting people that I know or have met, or I just want to find out what they're about, and talk about how networking has impacted them on this life. And then that flows into my experiment of just going all in with networking and trying to meet as many people as I can and connect other people to other people. So I'm able to meet people that I would not have otherwise met under different circumstances. And hopefully I'm giving them a voice to introduce them to people that they might not have met under the same circumstances. So altogether, we should all grow. Rising tides lift all ships. I love that saying because it's true. We shouldn't be in a competition, a cutthroat. If we all help each other succeed, it's going to make the world a better place. So with that, I'm going to say thanks for tuning in. It was a little bit rambling, maybe a little bit all over the place, but that's kind of how I am. I get kind of in the zone and maybe lose my train of thought, my focus, but hopefully it circles all back around and it makes sense. If you watch more, listen more, you're going to get a little bit more take on where this journey's going. Like I said, I'm just getting started. So I expect to not be the best possible version of this show at this point, but every time I do a little bit more, we're going to get better. And I want to showcase that, like, hey, you don't have to wait for conditions to be perfect. You don't have to have $1 million marketing budgets. You don't have to be the most popular kid in school to do this. You just have to get up, show up, do it every day, put yourself outside your comfort zone, and really, really get after it. So thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you guys for listening. If you found value, you liked what you heard, please leave a review on iTunes or wherever you downloaded this podcast, or leave a review, and subscribe to the channel. That's all we can ask, is that we spread the word. So if you know somebody that might find value in it too, tell them all about it. With that, take care. Have a great one.
Make sure to visit our website, therealnatepeo.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, so you'll never miss an episode of All In. While you're at it, if you found value, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if simply tell 2 friends about the show. Looking to connect? You can find Nate Peo on LinkedIn or Instagram.